We call it a midlife crisis, like something's broken, something's gone wrong. We hit 45 and we start questioning everything we've built. We feel lost, we feel confused, and we treat it like a problem that needs to be solved. But what if this is completely backwards? What if this is not a problem that needs to be solved? What if this is not a breakdown? What if this is a sign that you're actually breaking through to a deeper version of you? I experienced midlife crisis about 10 years ago when I was 40 and I'm 51 now. And it lasted about 5 years. It felt incredibly disorienting and confusing. I was questioning everything. I was questioning my choices, my values, my motivations, my purpose. I wanted to go back to who I was before, but that identity has already changed and I couldn't. I also wanted to break through. I wanted more clarity. I wanted to feel like I have solid ground under my feet, but I couldn't break through either. I couldn't force it. And so it lasted for about 5 years, and it was an incredibly hard period of my life. If you're watching this video, you're probably finding yourself in a similar situation, and you're thinking that there is something wrong with you, and you probably feel very alone. You're trying to go back to who you were, or you're trying to fix yourself, but it's not working. And I'm here to tell you that millions go through this. You're not alone. About a year and a half ago, I stumbled upon something that I wish I knew back then when I was going through my own midlife crisis period. These are 3 independent frameworks, personal development, psychology, leadership based, and they're absolutely different from each other and independent, but all of them allude to the same thing. Going through this period is not a bug, it's actually a feature. It's a necessary part of human evolution. Let's go into each one of these 3 completely independent frameworks. The first one is the ego development theory. The ego development theory, or EDT, was developed by Susan Cook-Greuter. Other psychologists laid the groundwork for the ego development theory before her, but she is the one that gave it shape. There are 9 stages in this ego development theory. Most of the population will be in the pre-conventional and conventional stages. And these are the stages that we're conditioned for from society, from schooling. 80% of the people will be in the conventional stage, and only 15 to 20% of the people will ever go to the post-conventional and the transcendent stages. Only 1/3 of all individuals on the planet will reach the achiever stage, the conscientious stage. This is the stage of autonomy, the stage that's driven by achievement, obviously, by accomplishing things on the outside. This is the stage that's driven by values. But at some point, success becomes hollow and we need something more. And this is when the transition begins from the conventional to the post-conventional stages, and the achiever begins transitioning towards the individualist. In the individualist stage, this is when the journey turns in and we start being driven by our own understanding of the world and our values. The green dotted line that you see right in the middle, that's the separation between the conventional and the post-conventional stages. This is what your peers call the midlife crisis. This is the tunnel that we enter that we feel so disoriented from. By the way, I will put a link to my notes on Notion about ego development theory. You can find this link in the description below. The second framework is the stages of personal power, developed by Janet Haigberg. There are 6 individual stages in this framework: powerlessness, power by association, power by achievement, power by reflection, and power by purpose, and power by wisdom. Most of humanity will ever reach to the power by achievement stage. This is the stage where individuals are motivated by external power, by doing, by accomplishing, by climbing in society. It's the stage of competition. It's the stage where the external trappings of life matter: societal position, status, wealth, houses, money, and so on. The stage after that is the stage power by reflection. That is the stage of inner power, stage of reflection, of meaning, of wisdom. Right in the middle, there is the crisis of integrity between the stages 3 and 4 you can see on the picture. This is where one day we wake up and we ask the question, is there all there is to life? What am I doing with my life? What is life all about? And we start questioning our values and the way we have been and how we have been motivated in the world. So basically, it is the same transition that I just described in the ego development theory, but described in a completely different framework independent of the ego development theory. And again, you can find my notes on the stages of personal power in the description of this video below. The third framework was developed by Alison Armstrong over 40 years of research into men's development and masculinity. She published this in her book, Keys to the Kingdom, which I absolutely love and adore. This book describes 4 specific stages that we, specifically men, go through. The relevant stages for what we're discussing here are the Prince and the King stage. In the Prince stage, which is from the mid-20s to about 40, we're focused on building our kingdom, on securing our place in the world, for providing for ourselves, for building, for creating a family. And then we enter what she calls the tunnel. This is a dark, confusing, and disorienting place. It's also called the descent into darkness. This is where we have questions about everything, about our lives, about ourselves, about what motivated us. But the more we ask questions, the more questions we tend to have. We don't have new answers, and it feels very confusing. It literally feels like a tunnel. Eventually, we go through this tunnel and we regain our footing, but we come out of the tunnel as completely different men. We are different in identity. We have changed, and this is the King's phase. This is the phase of wisdom, of purpose, of service, of legacy. What's very characteristic about the tunnel stage is that even our partners are trying to help us, but the more they try to help us, the worse it seems to get. And again, in a complete overlap with the other 2 frameworks, it feels very lonely, and it feels like we can never break through from this. I will link to my notes about Keys to the Kingdom in the description of this video as well. So you have all my notes on all 3 frameworks. So as you can see, 3 completely independent frameworks all describe the same transition, all put it in the middle of life between 30, 40, and even 50. And all say this is not a bug, it's a feature, it's a necessary part of human development. This is not something that we need to avoid. This is something that we need to lean in. Let's go back to the quote I started with. Life begins at 40. Up until then, you're just doing research. This is attributed to Carl Gustav Jung, arguably one of the most, if not the most influential psychologists and clinical psychologists of all time. This man knew and understood the psyche of a human being. So if he said that, it makes a lot of sense. What he also said was that in the first 40 years of life, we're busy securing our place in the world, our survival. We're focused on the outward journey. We're validated from the outside. And then we transition into the second part of life after 40, when the journey turns in, when we're focused on asking these deeper questions and we're finding meaning in life in a way completely different than before. But what separates these 2 stages is what your peers and everybody else calls the midlife crisis. So if it's coming from Carl Gustav Jung, this is on top of the 3 frameworks I already shared. This man knew what he was talking about. So let's trust that as well. Going back to my own journey in midlife crisis, I wasn't exposed to these frameworks back then, and I didn't understand what was happening to me. I didn't want to be in it. I wanted to go back to who I was and my previous identity, my previous values, and what used to motivate me in the world, my previous goals and what I was striving for, but I could no longer relate to that. It was something foreign to me, but I couldn't push through and break through either. I couldn't force my journey out of the midlife crisis, out of this. I had to go through this. I had to experience all of this. And I didn't have these 3 frameworks to explain to me that this is a normal part of human evolution, and that's how we break through on the other side to a much deeper part of life where we take our journey to a whole nother level. What I didn't know at the time is that the confusion itself was the journey. So I wasn't broken. I thought I was broken. I thought there was something wrong with me and I was the only one going through this. So if you find yourself in this same period of life, just know that there is nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. There is nothing to fix. It's a necessary part of life that many of us will go through. Not all, but many. And you're one of the lucky ones if you find yourself in the so-called midlife crisis, because that means you're one of these 20% that ego development theory tells us that will go from the conventional to the post-conventional stages. So there's nothing to fix there. You're literally transitioning from the stages of achievement to the stages of true meaning and engagement in life in a completely different and much deeper way. You're changing, your identity is changing, everything is changing, and it feels disorienting and confusing, but that is exactly what you have to go through to discover this new version of yourself. I know that there is a lot of anxiety right now, and I know what I'm sharing with you is not going to end what you're going through, but at least the anxiety will, to a large degree, hopefully go away, because now you understand that this is not something to avoid, this is not something to run away from, and this is not something that you can force and break through by way of forcing your journey through it. This is something you have to go through. And since you made it so far in this video, I wanted to ask you, do you find yourself in this transition period right now? Or have you already gone through it? Drop me a comment in the box below. I read all the comments. This is also a great place for me to tell you about my WhatsApp free community called Deeper Prime. This is where about 60 of us are engaging in deep existential level conversations. Really, the conversations go deep, so it's not for everybody. But if you like mystery, if you like tackling these deep questions of life like what we're tackling here, this might be a place for you. So find the link in the description below and join us if you'd like. Also, I drop a video just like this every Sunday, so if you want to go deeper together, subscribe. So to recap, midlife crisis is not a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. And 3 independent frameworks all demonstrate that. So if you find yourself in this period of life that many call midlife crisis, know that you're simply graduating and you're deepening your personal evolution. And not everybody goes through that. So you're one of the lucky ones. I know what I share here is not going to end your process, but at least it might alleviate the anxiety related to not knowing what's going on, because now you know.